Hey, welcome back to AI Tech Hub. I'm Techie. All right, let's dive right into today's explainer because we are looking at a really fascinating showdown in the AI coding space right now, Amazon Q Developer versus Claude Code. Now, before we get to the main event, let's take a quick step back. You might remember in a recent explainer we covered Claude Code pretty extensively. We looked at how it operates as the CLI-based, highly versatile tool that's designed to tackle a massive variety of programming challenges across, well, pretty much any tech stack you throw at it. It's essentially this incredible general-purpose powerhouse. But, the landscape is shifting super fast, and Amazon has brought a completely different philosophy to the table with Q Developer. So we're going to break down exactly what makes these two tools so distinct, so you know exactly which one you need for your own workflow.
So the big question we're tackling today is what exactly is Amazon Q Developer, and how does it actually differ from Claude Code? I mean, I've been seeing this popping up literally everywhere in the community lately. To really answer it, we have to look at how these tools leverage agentic capabilities. If you caught our previous explainer on AI agents, you already know we aren't just talking about your standard run-of-the-mill autocomplete tools here. These things can actually reason, they can take autonomous actions, and they execute complex multi-step workflows. Both Claude Code and Amazon Q Developer are built on those exact same super powerful agentic foundations. But the massive difference, it all comes down to how they apply that agency. It's about how they're trained, the specific environments they're built for, and the jobs they are fundamentally designed to do from the ground up.
Okay, so this analogy really made it click for me when I was first mapping all this out. I want you to think about a general contractor who can work on absolutely any building, right? They've got this huge breadth of knowledge. They can handle residential homes, commercial high-rises, you name it. Now contrast that with a specialist mechanic who only services one highly specific car brand, and in our case today, that single brand is AWS. That mechanic, well, they might not know the first thing about framing a house, but they know literally every single detail, every weird quirk, and every best practice about AWS infrastructure inside and out. Keep this exact analogy in the back of your head as we go through this, because it perfectly captures their totally different design philosophies. So Claude Code is our general contractor. It is broadly capable across virtually any code base you throw at it. It's really meant to be this versatile, wide-ranging assistant that gives you a strong, reliable baseline of competence, totally regardless of what language or framework you happen to be using today. And that makes it incredibly powerful when you're dealing with, say, a complex multi-cloud setup, or you're doing heavy front-end development, or just general software design that isn't locked into one specific vendor. If your stack is diverse and you need an agent that can just effortlessly pivot from writing a Python backend to tweaking a React frontend, well, Claude Code is absolutely going to give you that wide-angle generalist support you need. On the completely opposite end of the spectrum, we have Amazon Q Developer, our specialist mechanic. It is deeply, intensely trained specifically on AWS's own services and all their recommended best practices. It is not trying to be everything to everyone. Instead, it is hyper-focused on mastering the entire AWS ecosystem from top to bottom. And because of this crazy intense specialization, its operational footprint is totally different. You know how generalist tools usually just sit inside your code editor or your terminal? Well, Amazon Q Developer actually runs directly within the AWS console itself, right alongside your standard IDE integrations. That means you can interact with it right where your infrastructure actually lives. You can ask questions and make changes directly in the AWS management environment, which is huge.
Let's really dig into what that deep specialization unlocks for you, because for cloud engineers, this is honestly where the magic happens. Since it's so heavily focused on one ecosystem, Amazon Q Developer brings some mind-blowing superpowers to the table. First off, it is absolutely exceptional at diagnosing AWS-specific errors. We are talking about untangling incredibly convoluted IAM permissions or figuring out exactly why an ECS container fault just ruined your deployment. Things that would easily confuse a more generalized AI model. Plus, it truly natively understands your actual AWS infrastructure. It intimately knows how services like EC2, S3, and Lambda are meant to securely interact with one another. Oh, and another massive advantage? Automated code upgrades. Say you have a legacy AWS app running on some old version of Java. Q Developer can autonomously upgrade the syntax, swap out all the deprecated libraries, and make sure the whole thing aligns with current AWS best practices. And for those of you who watched our recent explainer on MCP, the Model Context Protocol, you'll be thrilled to know Amazon Q supports it. That means the agent can seamlessly tap into your external data sources and tools to enrich its specialized context even further.
But, as with any true specialist, there's a pretty important flip side we have to consider. Because Amazon Q Developer is so laser-focused on AWS, it is noticeably, and I mean noticeably, less useful if your project has absolutely nothing to do with AWS.
Actually, let's create a super simple decision matrix here. If your stack is completely outside of AWS, say you're deploying exclusively on Azure, or you're just writing some local Python scripts, or working on a strictly on-premise application, all that incredible depth of AWS knowledge is entirely wasted. It doesn't help you. And that's exactly when you call in the general contractor, Claude Code. You always have to match the tool's environment to your own.
Which brings us to a quote that really perfectly summarizes this whole explainer. Same agentic coding idea, very different specialization. They both take actions, they both reason through complex problems, but let's look at a real-world example to see how this actually plays out in practice. Imagine you have a scenario where some complex IAM policy is somehow blocking a Lambda function from reading data out of an S3 bucket. We've all been there, right? If you ask a generalist tool for help, it might just give you some generic Python debugging tips or literally tell you to check your network connection. But Amazon Q Developer, acting as your specialist mechanic, it can trace that specific AWS-centric error, look at the actual IAM roles attached to your Lambda function, identify the exact missing permission boundary, and then autonomously suggest the precise JSON policy fix you need to get it running again. That right there is the true power of domain-specific agency.
So that's the fundamental difference between Amazon Q Developer and Claude Code in a nutshell. Now, while I'm sure you guys want to see a real project, I actually want to take it a step further for you today. I want to hear from you. Which specific AWS services are giving you the absolute biggest headaches right now? Let me know down in the comments, and I promise we'll cover the most requested ones in future explainers. Make sure to follow for more, because we are always breaking down new concepts to keep you at the absolute cutting edge of tech. And I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought. The era of the one-size-fits-all AI is officially ending. So are you ready to hire the specialist? Keep learning, stay focused, and I'll catch you next time.